There we go. I don't know why my sound keeps going in and out. I don't know what that is about. I don't know if it's this mic or what, but it keeps going in and out. I'm going to watch it to see what happens. But anyway, my name is Michelle, aka the Ignited Teacher. And what I do here is on my channel is I help math teachers like yourself, math interventionists, to close gaps with strategies that I know are proven and effective strategies, research-based and evidence-based strategies that can be implemented in your classroom as early as the next day. So for tuning in this evening. I hope that you find this helpful. I am drinking not coffee today, but some actual tea to help my throat because this weekend has been rough. So that's what I'm drinking tonight. So if you're joining me live, please in the comment section tell me where you are watching from and what grade level or people you support. If you're a math interventionist or an administrator, teacher specialist, any of those things. So, if you are looking for resources, you can always check out my blog. This is one of the blog posts I have. I write about, let me see if I can get this to come up. Math instruction, project-based learning, classroom management, response to intervention, and technology integration. I believe that all of these things are important for closing gaps and making sure students are proficient mathematicians or um, proficient where they are at their grade level. So you can, let me put that in the chat if you're interested. fewgreatminds.com. That's in the chat. You can check out my blog posts. I have a store on there. I sell digital products as well, lesson plans that are scaffolded to meet the needs of students who are struggling or working below grade level. So tonight's topic is about diagnosing student misconceptions. Now, one of the issues that I find when we're teaching and teaching and learning is taking place, but then we come to the math intervention piece. It's not as smooth as it should be when it comes to the intervention piece. So I'm going to go over my 4-step process for math intervention. which is assess, diagnose, reteach, and reassess. Now, I have been covering in the last couple of live streams, the last couple of weeks, about the assess part. The assess part can be benchmark, teacher-made tests, anything that you find where it's summative. That assess part is summative. And you can look at the progress monitoring piece. That's also summative because it's after learning has taken place, not during. Now, when you are diagnosing, and that's what we're talking about tonight, is diagnosing those gaps that you see through formative assessment. During the diagnose part, you are going to use two types of assessment, the summative and the formative. Now, the reason why I say this is because the formative assessment is what you see in the moment. It's that in the moment work that you see. Summative assessment is final. Is after the teaching has taken place. And sometimes with formative assessment, it's not complete. So there's a book that I use. It's called Formative Assessment in Practice. That's this book right here. And I love this book because it talks about formative assessment in a way that it can be used in the classroom. So as you can see, I have some different sections highlighted because I have been reading. I purchased this book, I think, a couple of years ago when I was working on my national board certification, which I have not completed because I switched grade levels. Assessment has two fundamental purposes. The first is to provide information on students' current levels of achievement to the present time. That's one of the focal points of assessments. The second is to inform the future steps that teachers and students need to take to ensure that students make progress toward desired outcomes. That is the function of assessment, the two fundamental fundamental purposes of your assessments. Now, there are two different ways to look at this, and this book talks about it. It says, by contrast, the goals of assessment in support of taking future steps in learning require a present to future perspective. Now, a lot of times teachers look, and we've been focused on past to present, what the kids learned in the past. Now, that's a summative assessment, like your tests that students take at the end of the school year. Those are summative. And we're looking at the past. But in order for you to plan those future steps, which coincide with intervention, you have to look at it where you're looking at it to a present to future lens. Not what they've done in the past, but what they're doing in the present and how can we move the students forward. Now, there are some other things that I highlight in this book, but those are the 2 points that I wanted to make about assessments. The past to present, and for intervention is present to future. Now, if you want to do review, maintenance skill, that's past to present. But to say we're going to move the kids forward, it has to be present to future. Now, let me move on. In chapter 4, it talks about interpreting and using evidence. This is that gap or that jump that you have to make in the intervention cycle from assess to diagnose. you have to interpret the evidence. Sometimes teachers do not believe what they are seeing, and they are in denial about where the students are in their in the sequence, which we're going to talk about learning progressions. Now, the learning progressions is basically the vertical alignment of skills. So it talks about the just the right gap. And it says that in this seminal article, Dr. Roy Sattler conceptualized formative assessment as a feedback loop designed to close the gap between students' current learning status and desired goals, which will be your math intervention. Sadler stressed that the gap will vary from student to student. And that's why in intervention, we put students together and the groups are fluid, meaning that they're not cemented in time. Those groups are fluid because the gaps vary, and they vary from strand to strand. All kids are not going to struggle in every strand of the math. So if a child is struggling in number and operations, there's no guarantee that they're going to struggle with fractions, because it has some connection to number and operations, but fractions has its own different type of language because we're talking about a part to whole relationship. Now, it says when teachers interpret evidence, decide on the subsequent appropriate intervention, they make determinations about the distance between what the learner can accomplish independently and what can be accomplished with their assistance. Now, that is powerful because, for example, when I am starting to roll out my intervention, that's why your long range plan for your intervention is so important, because it shows the roadmap where you're going, but it taught in that you're going to look at appropriate intervention for those students. I do 2-week intervention cycles for my students, and we go from there because the students are not blank slates. They come with something. Now, you may spend 2 weeks on a skill, but once you've chunked that piece and they've learned that piece, then you go to the next piece of it, which will take us to our learning.
Are you struggling in your calculus class? Do you have a hard time understanding your instructor? Do you wish there was a simple
3/4 is built from 3 1/4, a fourth plus.
Now, this is Graham Fletcher. Let me see if I can make this bigger. This is his learning progressions. So when they talk about fractions, it says the progression of fractions. In first grade, you have quarters, fourths, and halves. In second grade, you're still along that, but then they introduce thirds. And then in third grade, you have the meaning of fractions, and then you introduce that measurement model. And then you have a set model, and then you have decomposing. This is a learning progression, and it goes right along with intervention when you talk about that gap and what students can do with your assistance and without. Now, if there is a gap, and I'm going to give an example for me. When I look at student work and I'm looking at the student expectation for that grade level or the learning progression, I know that certain skills, especially for like third grade and fourth grade, when you're adding and subtraction, students should not still be drawing. And I think teachers overlook that because they say, well, at least they found a way to solve the problem. Yes, but the learning progression or the vertical alignment of skills states that the students should have grasped the concept, and that those students should not be drawing the place value chart. That is an indication that that student is not on grade level and is not fluent with that skill. So some of the student expectations will say fluently solve. And I think a lot of teachers tend to overlook the fluently part to say, well, they're solving it. No, fluently means without any error, with ease. So in this learning
Three
progression,
fourths is built from
listen to
3
what he
1
says.
fourths, a fourth plus a fourth plus a fourth. Big understanding here. Let's go back to that length model. Well, that length model is a really powerful tool because it helps build students' understanding, which can also be done through a number line. Here's another number line. What number is the question mark? Here, let me help. Wait a minute, that's greater than 1. Well, in third grade, students need to see that fractions can also represent numbers greater than 1. It's the sum of unit fractions. Quarters, which can also be represented.
All right. So when you're looking at the learning progression, you have to know what mastery is. So when you are creating your intervention plan, you will know what mastery actually looks like. Because if you don't, your intervention will not be effective because you are not looking at the gap that the students are actually needing to close, because you're focused on, do they can they solve it? No, it's not about solving. Does it look like what the student needs to do for that skill to master it? And that's why a lot of students, teachers are surprised when students don't do well on standardized tests, because a lot of teachers are looking at, well, I'm just helping them solve the problem. Well, mastery looks different for different grade levels. If they are not supposed to be using a concrete model and your students are still at that level, then 9 times out of 10, they will not show mastery of that objective. So hopefully this is eye-opening. I'm going to drop the link to this book if you're interested, Formative Assessment in Practice, a Process Inquiry. It is a very, very good book for those who are interested. Also, I have my Math Intervention Implementation Guide, which follows the math intervention cycle. I teach you how to implement math intervention. Also, it comes with a planner and all those things. You have goal setting, small groups, instruction, and those things for you. So if you're interested, I'm going to drop that link as well. Let me go ahead and get that link for you all. I am going to go to bed after this because the funny thing is I don't know, I have some antibiotics, but it is going, I guess tomorrow I'll feel a lot better. Um, because it is here it is. Share product. Math Intervention Implementation Guide. And also I'm going to drop the book, Formative Assessment. Find a link for that. And actually, it's on sale. But it's a very good book. I like it. It has helped me to really understand formative assessment. So that is all I have for you all tonight. If you are interested in any of those products, have any questions, please, please, please contact me in the comment section, or you can always message me on either Facebook, Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn too. And I will answer you as soon as possible. Thank you for joining tonight, and I'll see you all in my next live stream. Bye-bye.